about the untold truth, but I would like to use as a subtitle or title for today's message from the great theologian T.I., Ain't I? Ain't I? Young people say that. Ain't I? Ain't I? Does it get the beat in your head? Yes, in the what? But I like T.I.'s verse. When T.I. comes into the song, he starts talking about how fresh he is and about him being the king and about him being that man and how people are hating on him, how the family is turned against him, how he's trying to help his community, but his community is trying to hold him back. And at the same time, he says, if you don't want to do it, I'll have to commandeer. And since there's so much territory to be taken over, I guess I must volunteer. He says, and actually he's saying there's a war going on the streets. He's actually talking about taking over street territory, but I want us to talk about taking over and pulling down generational curses that have been a part of our family. There's nobody in my family that graduated from school, but ain't I? There's nobody in my family that had 4.0s, but ain't I? Nobody in my family that desired to be a virgin until they got married, but ain't I? And what David is talking about is everybody in my family was violated, but God has kept a look over me, ain't I? We have to come to a place where we understand, even though that's not proper English, adults, isn't I or aren't I, but the truth of the matter, the way T.I. says, it sounds a little better to our generation. He's saying, ain't I? He's saying, ain't I on the news? Ain't I popular with everybody? Don't I got everybody's attention right now? Ain't everybody talking about me and stuff that I know? Ain't I snitching? No, indeed. He's talking about the fact that he is that man. He says, I'm the king. As a matter of fact, everybody works around me. If you don't want to get down, all you got to do is follow me. I'll show you. But that should be the motto of our young people, and that's another part of the untold truth that they don't hear, is just because Barack Obama went and excelled to be president, how come nobody else can excel and be the head engineer or the chief photographer, the chief statistician, the president, can't be the author, can't be the publicist, can't be good at math, can't be good at English? Ain't I? Ain't I a king? Ain't I a queen? Ain't I worthy? Ain't I good enough to keep myself until God gives me somebody to honor me? Aren't I good enough to be applauded in front of everybody? And one thing I want to say to you young people, some of you came up here and you act like you were a little ashamed about your accomplishments. Maybe you're a little shy, and I see some of you put your heads down when they're talking about you. No, you don't put your head down. Ain't I big enough to stand with my head held high and acknowledge how tough I am? Because I found out something about me. I'm 44 years old, and guess what, Chloe? I discovered something about myself. I'm not afraid of failing. You know what my real fear is? How bad I am. My fear is, Motley, not me failing, because I failed before. And God got me back up. But my real insecurity is how cold I am, and I've been dumbing it down for church folk, trying to fit in and trying to get the other preachers to accept my style of ministry and what have you. But the truth about it is, ain't I good enough that God can call me and use me in spite of me? That's what this word is. And this word is set up in a different format because David is about to deal with Goliath. Goliath is this big old giant character that has been taunting the people of God, Israel, for 40 days, 2 times a day. Goliath was so cold that he would just walk out and dare the whole army of Israel, and every time he stepped out, the church would bow its head. The church would turn the other way. But the truth of the matter is, isn't our kids worth fighting for? Aren't our young people worth standing up for them? But since you won't do it, ain't I big enough to fight for you? David's assignment was not his original assignment. David was not the one designed in the first place to have to fight Saul, but because the elder people, because the adults had got so caught in fear. Now you're not hearing me. Because the adults have watched everything on the television. That's why the book says where there is no vision, the people perish. And what has happened is the television has been telling the people of God a vision. And the television tells you to be afraid of your own kids. The television tells you not to discipline your kids or you going to jail, which caused you to give them stuff and not time. And now they got all the stuff and all they want is stuff. That's why they drop out of school, to get more stuff. Then when they get locked up, they telling what to do and will beat they behind and will shoot them. But ain't I worth you fighting for me? But you've been watching too much TV, so now the adults are locked in the fear factor, the ultimate fear factor. Every time we see creepy worms or we see creepy faces or creepy things that the enemy come to do, many times we digress or we move or we get real religious and say, I turn you over in the hands of the Lord. You religious nut. How you going to turn me over into the hands of a Lord that you don't know yourself? Because if you knew the Lord, you know he put me in your hands, and your hands are supposed to nurture me and bring me up in the fear and admonition of the Lord. But the truth of the matter is, as we deal with this text, let me just back up a little bit and walk right into it. I'm going to walk right into this text. Truth of the matter is, Saul represents an old move of leadership. He represents old school, but the truth of the matter is he represents people that went to church but didn't know God. He represents people that had positions but didn't have no power. He represents people that would say, do as I say, not as I do. He represents people that will shout in here because your mama out there and whoop you for no reason out there while getting drunk on you, then come back around and then have to say a word before the Lord, and the people are so impressed with Saul. But God's not pleased with Saul. And because Saul got so used to the applause of the people, he failed to get the power of God in his life. And when crisis came, Saul failed every time. If you go back to 1 Samuel chapter 15, let me go back to when Saul was first called. Saul was first called, he was out looking for a donkey. He was looking for his daddy's donkey or something. And the people of God wanted a king. And God didn't want the people of God to have a king. God wanted to be the king for the people of God. But the people of God wanted to be like the people on the streets. And so the people on the streets wanted a king, so the people of God wanted a king. And God said, I don't want you to have a king. I want to be your king. But then God said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you what you ask for. And Saul means ask for. Has God ever given you what you asked for only to show you that's not what you need? God gave them a king called asked for. That's what Saul name means, asked for. And when they got what they asked for, he was tall, he was dark, he was handsome, he looked good, he's very articulate, he was very charismatic, he had all the divine abilities, but he didn't have the presence of God. And the people of God get so confused about leadership that is very impressive, they got a whole bunch of accolades, but don't have God's glory. Because we don't want to see God, we want to see the man. And so the book talks about how they actually begin to idolize Saul, and Saul got drunk off of the applause of men. And then I think in chapter 15, Samuel tells Saul, I'm going to go away for a while, but I'll be back. I know the Philistines are positioning themselves to fight against us, but I want you to wait till I come back. And when I come back, we'll offer sacrifice unto the Lord, and then I'll give you directions on what to do next. And the book says that while Samuel was gone, Saul got in a panic because he felt like the man of God was taking too long. Have you ever took matters into your own hand when you felt like God wasn't moving quick enough? Yeah. So he took matters into his own hand, and he went in and offered sacrifices unto the Lord, which is a no-no if you got blood on your hand. If you got men's blood on your hand, you can't offer a sacrifice unto the Lord, because he was the king, he was designed to fight. Samuel was the priest, he was designed to worship, offer up before the people of God, for the people of God. And so I think the book says that when Samuel showed up, Saul looks at him and says, how you doing, man of God? Amen. How you doing, pastor? It's a pleasure to see you today. I'm just glad to be in the house of the Lord one more time. But Samuel says to him, what is it that you've done? What happened that you did not obey the Lord? He said, well, you didn't come quick enough, and the people took a vote on it, and they voted that I should do something that I knew I wasn't supposed to do. I don't know. That's what he said. If you go back and read it, he said, the people influenced me to the point that I went and did something. I forced myself. No, you didn't force yourself. You really wanted to do it in the first place, because you got mixed up thinking you was God instead of God being God. And he says to him, he says, now you got a problem, Saul. The problem is that this day God hath, H-A-T-H, past tense. He has rejected you. He has chosen someone to take your place. I'm not going to tell you his name because you're a hater and you will try to go kill him. But God hath chose somebody else. As a matter of fact, I don't even know who it is, Samuel said, but I know God, my spirit bear witness that he selected somebody else. And so the book says that in chapter 16, Saul does something dumb, like offers up some old crazy edict and says anybody that eats, he tried to send the people on a fast in his flesh.